Good morning. My name is Shaquila Walters. I am a student at MUW RN to BSN program. This morning I will be doing a presentation on the national opioid crisis. By the end of this presentation, I would like for my audience to be able to identify at least three of the main known or most known opioid medications. I would like for them to be able to identify and know the impact that the opioid crisis has had on the healthcare industry. And I would also like for them to be able to identify at least 5 signs and symptoms of opioid abuse, addiction, and or misuse. And lastly, I would like for my audience to be able to identify at least 2 ways in which they can help to prevent this crisis. So, we will start off by talking about opioids. After conducting research, I learned that opioids were actually a natural substance that was found in the opium poppy plant. And what happens is the chemical that's released from this substance is released into the body, and it causes the body's pain receptors to be blocked, causing the patient or the individual to experience sort of like a natural high. Some of the examples of opioids in which are most known to the health care industry and in the health field is codeine, hydrocodone, oxycodone, morphine, and a big one, fentanyl. So the national opioid crisis started in the 1990s, possibly before then, but based off of the research that I conducted, it had a lot of information on the 1990s. It is actually one of the most biggest pandemics within the nation right now, and it's also accounted for more than 63,000 deaths, and that was only in 2017 alone. After this was broken down by the CDC, that equal to about 130 deaths per year. I'm sorry, per day. This is a chart by the CDC, and what it explains is that from the year 1999 to 2017, which is only 18 years, 750,000 people died from prescribed opioid misuse and abuse. This next chart, which is also from the CDC, is explaining and just showing that from the 1990s all the way up until 2013, which is approximately 23 years, is showing that the deaths had continued to rise between those years, and by that year, there were 450,000 deaths. The last slide showed that all the way up until 2017, 300,000 more people had died. The impact of the national opioid crisis on the healthcare industry has been overwhelming. For nurses and physicians, these are our first line responders. So if anybody misuses and or abuses this substance, they show up to the ERs, they're admitted to ICUs, and these are the people that have to care for them. Not only that, but a lot of rehab centers and a lot of substance abuse centers, they're also feeling the effects of opioid abuse and or misuse due to the fact that patients who actually want help to try and combat this crisis, they're enrolling into these centers for help. And a lot of these centers are just becoming overcrowded and overpopulated. However, thankfully, a lot of them are also able to help with this crisis and help these people who are actually seeking help. The financial impact on the national opioid crisis within the healthcare industry is also overwhelming. In the U.S., Medicare and Medicaid, they fund and help to pay for a lot of these prescribed medications due to a lot of people not being able to afford them. In the United States, according to Medicare and Medicaid, it actually costs the United States $133 million a year. That's for prescribed opioids. That's also for programs that can help to prevent opioid addiction and abuse and misuse. The impact of the national opioid crisis on the healthcare industry has affected resources as well. As stated before, a lot of Medicare and Medicaid funding is used to help to prevent this crisis by providing programs such as substance abuse programs and pain management programs so that patients and individuals who are seeking help with this addiction, they're able to afford it. And not only that, but for the most part, it's free due to government funding and Medicare and Medicaid being able to pay for people who don't qualify to attend these programs for free. The health impact of the national opioid crisis on the health industry. The health impact that opioids have on individuals is it can actually aid in the decline of a patient's health or a person's health. It alters thought processes. It causes them to be mentally unstable. It causes a lot of forgetfulness, euphoria. It is definitely addictive, and in most severe cases, it causes death. Some of the signs and symptoms that of opioid abuse that are found in not only lay people but also healthcare workers is irritability. Most of them get paranoid. They become very distant with family members, nauseated. A lot of them experience a severe decline in weight loss due to the use of this substance. They have impaired motor function and judgment. A lot of them are paranoid all the time. And in lay people and in healthcare providers, most of these symptoms are the same. I actually worked with a coworker who was addicted to opioid medications. She would stay off the floor for long periods of times to um, I guess, go find access to these medications, which normally she did have them. They were prescribed to her, but a lot of the time she would fall asleep at work. She would fall asleep standing up with the card. And as with the signs and symptoms listed here in the PowerPoint, she had a lot of poor motor skills, and she was definitely um, absent a lot of the time when she was at work. One of the ways in which my community is combating the opioid abuse and addiction is, as a nurse, I try and teach patients, individuals on the street, and family members to always try non-pharmacological pain management techniques first. Some of these non-pharmacological pain management techniques include hot and cold therapies, guided imagery. That's a big one. I would often tell them to try and relax, close their eyes, imagine them being in one of their most favorite places. My community also has free programs for substance abuse. And also now they have it to where a lot of patients who are prescribed opioids, they have to show up in person at the pharmacy to get them, and they also have to have a written prescription form. This is a good way to, in my opinion, to help combat this crisis because it allows patients and also people such as the pharmacists who know these patients, it allows them to keep track of how often they see them and how often they come to these places to obtain these medications. As a nurse, I try and teach my patients non-pharmacological pain management techniques, like I said previously, such as guided imagery, hot and cold therapies. And if needed, I would teach them to take mild painkillers over the counter as long as they're not allergic to it. I would also encourage them to consult with their healthcare physicians for medications such as Tylenol, ibuprofen. And I can also, or I will also, help to combat this crisis by just increasing awareness while outside of work, by teaching patients on the street and via social media ways in which they can help control this crisis. And also just by providing information and education to these patients as well and these individuals as well. Here's a list of my references. I hope you all have enjoyed and have learned my presentation about the opioid crisis. I enjoyed conducting research about this topic very, very much, and I will definitely take the necessary steps as a nurse to help combat this crisis. Thank you.